Holidays to each of you. The December State Board meeting will now come to order. Denise, please call roll.
Lisa Fricke,
Present.
Patsy Ko-Johns, Rachel Wise,
Present.
John Witzel,
Here.
Molly O'Halloran,
Present.
Patricia Tim,
Yes.
Maureen Nichols,
Present.
Patrick McPherson,
Present.
and Commissioner Bloomstead.
Present.
7 present, 1 absent.
Thank you, Denise. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Information regarding the Open Meetings Act is posted on the east wall of this room on the south side of the door. Live web streaming will be available through the State Board of Education website. Board members, please engage your microphones before speaking and turn them off when you're done speaking. And please turn off your cell phones now. Thank you very much.
Turn off my cell phones.
Approval of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the November 1 through 2nd, 2018 State Board of Education meeting?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mo. Is there any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Denise, please call roll.
Witzel,
Yes.
O'Halloran,
Yes.
McPherson,
Yes.
Tim,
Abstain. I wasn't here.
Nichols,
Yes.
Wise,
Yes.
and Fricke.
Yes.
Ko-Johns is absent. 6 present, 1 absent, 1 abstain.
Thank you very much, Denise. Commissioner Bloomstead, are there any recommended changes for today's agenda?
Actually, I just have one, and it's Maureen Nichols is asked to pull items 8.4A and 8.4B, and I think I'll turn it over to Maureen just to describe why. So,
They both deal with the recognition that we gave to Patrick McPherson and Molly O'Halloran yesterday, formal recognition of their work for us. But I would like myself to be able to give some additional recognition to Molly and Patrick, as well as for the public to hear, and anyone else that would want to follow up in doing so at the time.
so we
I
will
think it's
end up
important.
we'll end up taking those for separate vote at the consent agenda time, so we can have a little bit of that additional dialogue. So, thanks, Mo.
With that, is there a motion to approve today's agenda?
I move the agenda as amended.
Second. Oops, go for it, Pat.
Motion's made.
Yep.
Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Denise, please call roll.
O'Halloran,
Yes.
McPherson,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Witzel,
Yes.
Wise,
Yes.
Fricke,
Yes.
Ko-Johns. 7 yes, 1 absent.
Thank you, Denise. Public comment period. We will now have public comment period. This period of public comment is available for any person who wishes to address the State Board on subjects within its authority. Please note that the public comment should be on topics related to State Board's constitutional and statutory authority. Thanks to the members of the public who attended today, we have one request for appearance. Consulate General Thomas Hudson has requested and has been granted a special appearance to comment. Thomas, you have 10 minutes, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. December the 7th. Can't believe a more profound day. 2 reasons. Obviously, Pearl Harbor. I come from Red Cloud. It's the birthday of Willa Cather. Ronald Reagan used to say, General Electric, the most important product is progress. Nebraska, the most important product, education. It's an honor to be here. Thank you. Let me introduce Danny Baker. How can a young farm boy be such a hell of a good filmmaker? He is. I've already approached Colonel Witzel. I've approached other members, the First Lady, the Governor's Policy Council, the Nebraska State Education Association, and the Omaha World Herald about this, to me, utterly simple idea. My name is Tom Hudson. You may say, so Watson? Well, everybody misspells my name. My name is H-U-T-S-O-N, not H-U-D-S-O-N. So simple. Hotel Uniform Tango Sierra Oscar November. My name is never misspelled. Colonel Witzel's name is never misspelled when he spells it. NATO. The NATO phonetic alphabet. If you Google, you'll see all kinds of alphabets. These are extremely perilous times we live in for our national security. I worked all over the world. I was in the Army. I then came and worked at Stratcom. Now we're reading about the nuclear triad. Just think if you're someplace in a silo and somehow you misspell a geographic location or somebody's name. The consequences are enormous. And then we have the situation with children. He has a niece, what, 3 years old?
3 years.
She's an actress. Comes from a very talented family. She's going to do a jingle that is going to go viral, and kids, without any encouragement from the Nebraska State Board of Education or anybody else, they're going to learn the natural way, not that they're being indoctrinated. But nonetheless, I would still like to have, hand me that picture there. This is, in 1991, we formed the Nebraska Handwriting Contest in memory of my mother. This is for my father, who was a fireman. He was the captain of the fire station in Omaha, in Florence. If you had to get to, a place, you need to know how to spell it. And so I'm hoping that if something happens, it might be in tribute to him. This is what I looked like 40 years ago. And then this is one of my heroes, Ambassador Douglas MacArthur II. I wrote a book and I just gave a copy of it to Colonel Witzel. But the problem, when we formed the handwriting contest, I went to the Nebraska State Board of State Education Association, the union. A woman there, a dynamo, can't remember her name. I walked in. 5 minutes later, she said, "Let's do it." I've been trying that now for 2 years. I can't get it done. So we're doing a jingle in Nigeria, in Laos, in Malaysia, in Philippines, in Thailand, because this is a universal thing. Airlines use it. I think ships use it. Everybody uses it. Why not have Nebraska lead the way? Nebraska leads the way. It's going to be leading the nation in football again soon, too. but as I say, it's the most important product we do. And it's also cost effective. how many, yeah, I'm on the phone, my name is Hudson, that's H-U-T, is that a T? No, I see. Hotel Uniform Tango Sierra Oscar November. And if kids start using it, and I've tried various jingles, kids already know A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, N, V, W, X, Y, and Z. Why not do Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo, Foxtrot, Golf Hotel? Somebody's got to find the right jingle, and that's what I'm hoping you can help do. This is the NATO thing. I'm sure with the Colonel, once you've been in the military, it's in your soul, in the tips of your toes. And anyway, one of the problems I've had is finding out the cost of doing this. And I'm suggesting it be introduced, and I'm no expert. Ryan Fuhr and the commissioners have ideas, where would this be best introduced in the school system, in the elementary system? Anywhere, as far as I'm concerned. And as far as the cost is concerned, I'll pay for it. No, I will. I think it's free, because it's on your, you just take this strip and put it on the side of your PC. Of course, I don't have one of these little devices, but where you can see that thing, and you start using it, and then you know it. And kids will learn it like that, especially if it's fun. And I guess I'm a kid at heart. I wanted to leave some time for questions.
Sir, unfortunately, we cannot take questions during this period. Sir.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The only item the board members can bring up are clarification items from the briefing that you gave. They can
Okay.
ask clarification questions.
Well, I would just do one final thing then,
Yes, sir.
because it is the 7th. God bless America, land that I love, stand beside her. Please join me. Guide her through the light from the stars up above, o'er the mountains, o'er the prairies, o'er the ocean white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. And God rests the soul of George Herbert Walker Bush. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Consulate General.
Do I leave now?
Or you take a seat
Okay.
behind you, sir.
Thank you for your service.
We will now move to our regular public comment period. I would like to remind you to please sign in if you've not already done so. There are sign-in cards on the back table. We have 2 public comment cards turned in to the public. Will speak in the order the cards were received. Each member of the public will have 5 minutes to speak during the public comment period. I will announce the name of the speaker following the person who is next, so they will be prepared to come forward. Our first speaker is Jennifer Davidson, followed by Cindy Kopich. Welcome, Jennifer. You have 5 minutes now.
Good morning, thank you. Members of the board, thank you for your time today. My name is Jennifer Davidson. I'm an assistant professor of practice and economics at the University of Nebraska, and I am also president of the Nebraska Council on Economic Education. which is a nonprofit organization housed at the College of Business. Our charge is to lead initiatives to advance economic and financial education here in Nebraska. Our primary focus is K-12 and specifically teacher professional development. I was fortunate to be part of the writing team for the Business, Marketing, and Management New Programs of Study and Course Standards, which are before you today. The entire writing team consisted of 27 people, including teachers and college professors, all experts in their respective fields. We spent 2 intensive days writing and reviewing in June. We then took some time to reflect on our work, look for gaps, and ensure coverage of the essential knowledge and skills that students need for successful transitions between secondary and post-secondary education and the workforce. We then came back together in August for another intensive day of editing and finalizing. My team was charged with working on the finance program of study and the economics and personal finance courses. While I'm proud of all the work done, I'm particularly proud of the financial literacy standards. These course standards have increased in both depth and breadth. We thought deeply about what students needed to know to become financially responsible, conscientious members of society. I think it is also important for you to know that I'm currently chairing the economics team in the rewriting of the social studies standards. As part of that process, we've referred to and utilized these business, marketing, and management standards as a foundation for our work. Nearly half of young Americans start their working lives with student debt, and 43 million Americans carry student loans. The problem is that most borrowers did not fully understand what they were taking on when they obtained those student loans. As educators, we need to help students understand the important and long-term consequences of the decisions they are making, financial and otherwise. We wrote a standard to specifically help address this issue. Students will correlate salary potential to the education requirements of different careers and identify strategies to reduce student loan debt. We need students to think about their futures, potential salaries associated with careers, and what student loan payments will look like. When asked what areas of personal finance are most worrisome, the top responses are retiring without having enough money set aside and insufficient rainy day savings for an emergency. Truth. I heard that, truth. We need to help our Nebraska students understand the importance of setting financial goals and how developing a budget can help achieve those goals. We need our Nebraska students to analyze the power of compounding through the time value of money so they can understand the importance of saving and saving early. We need our Nebraska students to think about retirement planning and estate planning. All of these topics and so much more are included in the proposed business, marketing, and management standards before you today. The increased rigor in these standards is critical to ensuring students have the necessary knowledge and skills to be successful, independent adults. Thank you for allowing me to visit and voice my support for the business, marketing, and management programs of study and course standards as presented to you today.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you. Cindy Kopich?
Hello, my name is Cindy Kopich. I represent more than 28,000 educators, including paraeducators, teachers, and administrators of the Nebraska State Education Association. I would like to take this time to thank Molly O'Halloran and Pat McPherson for giving of their time and expertise while serving the students, families, and our schools through their representation on the state board. I've had the pleasure of watching the state board meetings live every month for the past 3 years. And in my observation, I have watched both of you advocate passionately for your constituents. Molly, I have enjoyed your bubbly personality and positive nature as you discuss the importance of digital backpacks and repositories to support students and schools for improvement and success. Molly, your appreciation for the work of the NDE staff, teachers, and your fellow board members is felt and understood by so many. You have an amazing way of making others feel special and appreciated. And Pat, your assistance on accountability of taxpayer funds, getting stakeholder feedback, and setting measurable goals is admirable and has improved both policy and practice. Both of you have brought different talents and skills to this board and have made NDE and education in the state of Nebraska better because of your hard work. I know the time and dedication each of you put into invest into this work here with the board and how this investment extends well beyond the 2 days of meetings each month. I would also like to welcome Robin Stevens and Deb Neary to the State Board. I know they will both work just as hard as the rest of you have, and together you will carry on the important work of the board to benefit students in our state. As you mentioned yesterday, all of you set the example for local school boards across the state. When we talk about equity, access, and support, that work cannot just happen with our school staff. It must also include our local school boards. Like the state board, our local school boards build partnerships with the community, represent constituents' needs, oversee the work of their leadership, and develop policy and oversee the budget. When we look at AQuESTT indicators and evidence, I hope this board will consider measures of quality, improvement, and accountability for our local school boards, built on their roles and responsibilities in Nebraska schools. These should include indicators of training and focusing on policy and budgetary resources on those students that need it the most. As you know, the partnerships between leadership and staff are essential for an organization and local district to be effective and focused on the success of students. The state board sets the example for that work across the state. I look forward to each of you continuing to raise the bar and the standards for your service to others. Our students and staff are counting on you, your staff and leadership team as well. Thank you, and a special thanks to Molly and Pat, and happy holidays.
Thank you, Cindy. Thank you very much. We're going to take a 10-minute. That concludes our public comment. We're going to take a 10-minute break. Thank you. going to continue on with our action items until we get to that time. So, Pat, Tim? Policy Committee? Vice President Tim, is there a motion to approve item 7.4-A?
Yes. I move to approve I move to approve proposed revisions to State Board Bylaw B6, agendas, meetings, and materials for regular meetings, and I move that we approve the proposed second version of the 2019 State Board meeting dates.
Is there a second?
Can't have too many motions on
Well, yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, just the first
Okay,
motion.
just the
Yep,
first
sorry.
one.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I need to get organized.
May I ask, Chair, a point of clarification? When you proposed these, could you mention the dates? There's a 9/10 or something like that?
Yeah,
and
it's
then-
6, 7, or 9, 10.
So, just to remind us
Sure,
when we vote.
sure.
Thank
will.
you.
Okay, we'll start again. There we go. See, I'm feeling better, but I'm not organized. Okay, once again, for the record, I move to approve proposed revisions to State Board Bylaw B6, agendas, meetings, materials for regular meetings.
Second?
Second. Discussion? Seeing and hearing none. Denise, please call roll.
McPherson,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
O'Halloran.
Yes.
Witzel,
Yes.
Wise.
Yes.
Co-Johns, Fricky,
Yes.
7 yes, 1 absent.
Any other action items?
Yes, the second action item is 7.4.B, to approve the proposed state board meeting dates. And we had a request from a board member to change those dates, so I move to approve the proposed version 2, 2019 state board meeting dates, which means we would have the December meeting of next year on the 9th and 10th of December rather than the 5th and 6th.
I second.
Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none. Denise, please call roll.
Wise,
Yes.
Fricky,
Yes.
McPherson,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
O'Halloran,
Yes.
Witzel,
Yes.
Co-Johns, 7 yes, 1 absent.
Thank you very much. We will now move into AQuESTT Teaching and Learning Domain Committee. Maureen Nichols. Maureen, is there a motion on item 7.5.A?
Yes. I move to approve. Yes. I move to approve the business, marketing, and management content area standards.
Is there a second? Second by Molly. Any comments or questions? Yes.
With Jennifer Davidson here this morning talking about the financial literacy, I just want to echo what I said before. In every strand of that standard, it addresses financial literacy. We have too many kids getting charge cards too early, not understanding what saving for the future looks like, and I am thrilled. So thank you for this.
Any other further discussion? Seeing and hearing none. Denise, please call roll.
McPherson,
Yes.
O'Halloran,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Witzel,
Yes.
Fricky,
Yes.
Wise,
Yes.
Co-Johns, 7 yes, 1 absent.
Thank you very much. Maureen, is there a motion to adopt item 7.5.B?
Yes. I move to adopt the annual plan for the Nebraska statewide assessment and reporting system.
Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Rachel. Discussion?
I just want to thank again the leadership, and Dr. Guru, I believe, has been renamed or something yesterday by Jeremy, in really looking at moving timelines forward to really help schools access data in a timely fashion so they can use that assessment information for instructional purposes. So I appreciate the leadership of NDE to make that happen.
And even though I wasn't here, I did watch the streaming of the meeting yesterday. And as you say with Jeremy, that was a very good piece, but I also felt it was a good piece that we are planning on being able to give schools some professional development in addressing their curriculum so that when they move forward and want to improve their scores, they have that help from the department as to how to examine curriculum and know how to move forward and increase their rigor as well. Thank you.
Patricia. Any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none. Denise, please call roll.
O'Halloran?
Yes.
McPherson?
Yes.
That computer freeze up, sorry. Nichols?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Witzel?
Yes.
Wise?
Yes.
Fricky?
Yes.
Kojans? 7 yes, 1 absent.
Thank you, Denise. We'll now move on to AQuEST Student Success and Access Domain Committee. Molly O'Halloran. Molly, is there a motion on item 7.6.A?
I move to adopt the proposed revisions to Rule 91, 92 NAC 91, regulations governing driver qualifications and operational procedures for pupil transportation vehicles, including additional non-substantive changes as contained in the errata sheet.
Second.
Second by Mr. McPherson. Discussion? Go ahead.
I'm not real sure where this is, because we have several on that, but. When he talked about it yesterday, they talked about 6 through 8 needing to be seat belted in. How does that affect the buses that we already have?
I might ask Bryce to go ahead and come
Yeah,
up and
Bryce.
address it. I think he probably do better than me. Let me put it that way.
Bryce Wilson, Administrator of Finance and Organizational Services. So the question is, LB 42 made us required statutorily that kids that are in a vehicle with seatbelts, the maximum age go from 6 to 8. They have to be in a federally approved car seat. So if they're in a bus that doesn't have school bus seatbelts, they're not in seats. It's only for if they're in
Oh,
like vans
okay.
or school buses that do have seatbelts, since we do have some of those in the state now. So
Okay.
in those situations, when they have that available, then they would
use
be
it,
in
but
a
they won't
car
have
seat.
to install.
Correct. They would not
Okay.
have to be in
All right.
one.
Thank you for the clarification.
Lisa?
I appreciate all the work that went into to reorganizing and rewording this item, but I'm very concerned about the medical, just every 2 years going through a medical exam. In rural areas, and I told you yesterday, I'm old, but this is not discriminatory. In many of the rural areas, and possibly the cities too, a lot of retired people are driving our precious kids. And we talk about safety all the time. If we lose one kid because some bus driver has some kind of a attack, it would break my heart. So I'm going to have to tell you, because of that safety issue in my heart, I'm going to have to say no.
Any other further discussion?
I just
Any
want
other-
to say I appreciate that you are getting in alignment with the federal regulations. I think that's the bottom line of a lot of what we're doing, is trying to remove unnecessary bureaucracy and still keep in mind safety standards. So thanks, Bryce.
Any other further discussion? Go ahead, Rachel.
No.
Oh, okay, I was getting ready for it.
She's eager to vote.
Yeah, she was like- Denise, please call roll.
Fricky?
No.
Wise?
Yes.
Witzel?
Yes.
O'Halloran?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
McPherson?
Yes.
Kojans? 6 yes, 1 no, 1 absent.
Thank you, Denise. Molly, is there a motion on item 7.6.B?
Yes, I move to adopt the proposed revisions to Rule 92, 92 NEC 92, regulations governing the minimum equipment standards and safety inspection for people transportation vehicles.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Seeing and hearing none. Denise, please call roll.
McPherson,
Yes.
O'Halloran.
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Wise.
Yes.
Witzel.
Yes.
Fricky,
Yes.
Co-Johns, 7 yes, 1 absent.
Thank you, Denise. Molly, is there a motion on item 7.6.c?
I move to grant the Commissioner the authority to contract for PBIS and Pyramid statewide coaching with Sunny Edwards.
Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Rachel. Discussion? Seeing and hearing none. Denise, please call roll.
O'Halloran,
Yes.
McPherson,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Witzel,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Wise.
Yes.
Fricky,
Yes.
Co-Johns, 7 yes, 1 absent.
Thank you very much. Molly, is there a motion on item 7.6.d?
I move to grant the Commissioner the authority to contract for PBIS and Pyramid statewide coaching with Heather Gill.
Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Rachel. Discussion? Seeing and hearing none. Denise, please call roll.
McPherson,
Yes.
O'Halloran.
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Witzel,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Fricky,
Yes.
Wise.
Yes.
Co-Johns, 7 yes, 1 absent.
Very good. Thank you. Molly, is there a motion on item 7.6e?
Yes, I move to grant the Commissioner the authority to approve cooperative agreement with parent and training information to provide secondary transition parent support services.
Is there a
Second.
second? Discussion? Discussion? Seeing and hearing none. Denise, please call roll.
O'Halloran,
Yes.
McPherson,
Yes.
Fricky,
Yes.
Wise,
Yes.
Witzel,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Co-Johns, 7 yes, 1 absent.
You want to ask for it?
Yeah.
No, but do you want to ask for the motion?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm asking for the motion for budget and finance.
I move to grant the Commissioner the authority to approve.
Oh, turn your mic back on.
It is.
You just shut it off.
Okay, it's back on again. I'm not, but it is. I move to grant the Commissioner the authority to approve 2019 trust fund budget for the Nebraska Center for the Education of Children who are blind and visually impaired.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Seeing and hearing none. Denise, please call roll. Thank you.
O'Halloran,
Yes.
McPherson,
Yes.
Wise.
Yes.
Fricky,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Witzel,
Yes.
Co-Johns, 7 yes, 1 absent.
Thank you very much, Denise. We'll now move into the approve of the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
One change.
Okay.
I move approval of consent agenda as modified.
Second.
Second. Discussion? Seeing and hearing none. Denise, please call roll. Okay.
Pick a number.
McPherson,
Yes.
O'Halloran,
Yes.
Fricky,
Yes.
Wise.
Yes.
Witzel,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Co-Johns, 7 yes, 1 absent.
In regards to the consent agenda again, regards to the pulled items 8.4 alpha and 8.4 bravo. The old habit's hard to break. Do I have a motion for those two consent agenda items?
I move that we adopt both resolutions to recognize Molly O'Halloran and Patrick McPherson.
And I second.
Discussion?
Yes. Last month, our Teacher of the Year, 2018 Teacher of the Year, Michelle Helt, shared with us her final lessons she's learned and her journey. And she ended it with a very powerful song from the Broadway play Wicked. And it starts out with people come into our lives for a reason, bringing something we must learn. And we are led to those who help us most to grow if we let them and if we help them in return. And I know that I am a better state board member because of you, Patrick, and because of you, Molly. You have taught me things that I never thought about. You've helped me grow a lot. And I just wanted to make sure that I thanked you in front of the public. You deserve that. And I know others would like to share as well. But I'm just going to kind of combine here. But Patrick, I just want to say that you gave us such a vision in leading us down the road to a strategic plan. And because of that vision of yours, and your pounding away, as my brother would call it, we got there. We have a lot of work yet to do. But with your vision, we are a better board because of you. And I want to thank you for that.
Well said.
And I want you to know that there'll be others that will share things. But I just want to share a couple of things on a positive note. I'm going to miss talking about your fishing experiences. I think I'm a pretty good fisherwoman, but I don't do it like you do.
We'll have to go together.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think I can outfish you because I caught 2 5-pound bass in one hook. So, well, it had a double hook on it.
Where was that?
Elwood Reservoir.
Sounds like one of those fishing towns.
Yeah. Yeah, my former husband still doesn't like talking about that story. But I'm going to miss those conversations. And I want to let you know that during the course of these 4 years, you've talked about taking your grandson out on these kinds of expeditions. And for that, it gave you a better relationship with your grandson. And that's what our roles are here, is to empower our students. And that's what you were doing for your grandson and leaving a legacy. And for all these things, I just want you to know you've helped make me a better board member, and I want you to know that. Molly, we go back further than what we even know.
Wasmer.
Wasmer Elementary, where I taught for 21 years, and my first year at Wasmer, I taught Molly's youngest sister, Lucy. So Molly and I will always have a connection. But Molly, I need to thank you for your leadership on the legislative area. You have been a true championship in seeing that things with our senators statewide and nationally are noted. And not just on our state board, but on our National Association of State Boards. You were a true leader there on the Government Affairs Committee that I'm not sure everybody knows, or Robin or Deb that are coming on board. That's a big job. to chair that on the national level, and you were chair for it, not just on the committee, but you chaired it. And I watched you when we would go up on the Hill to lobby, and I learned a lot from your strategies and your conversations. You have a way of speaking eloquently and being able to put it all together, unlike me. But I appreciate that. Molly has 5 children. She loves every one of them. She loves every one of them individually. I only have one. And she has no gray hair, I do. But the other thing, we also have some other kids, and that's our 4-legged critters. Yeah. Our best friends, I think. And we love talking about our boys. And so, Molly, I want you to know we have to continue to be in touch with our boys, and I want you to be a great mom to those boys. Molly just became a grandmother for the 2nd time this last month, since our last board meeting. Yes. Beautiful son, remind me of his name?
Oh, well, it's Johnny.
Johnny, okay. That runs in the Higgins family, yeah. Trust me. But I just want you to know the picture you sent out, that at least I received, absolutely precious. And it is what we are all about on this board, is children, starting at birth and seeing that, nurturing them. And I know that you're going to be a great grandmother in nurturing your grandchildren, as you have been in working for equity, access, diversity, acceptance, all of those things. And Rachel?
Thanks for throwing the baton over here. Great, now I have to go after. You've done a great job, Mo. And, you know, I'm going to start. Pat, we had a little bit of a rough start, but I will tell you, you immediately moved, as Mo said, a vision and a direction. And I think we share a commonality that sometimes people perceive as negative and sometimes people perceive as positive. And that's maybe a little stubbornness, or maybe persistence would be a better way I should phrase it. And you were so persistent about some things that we needed to do differently in our processes as a board. And you were spot on in those changes. In moving forward with the strategic plan, you provided great insight in the process. You were tenacious in seeing that we carry it through over time and thinking about the longevity of the implementation and the evaluation of that plan. You tend to care about money. You know, I would say fiscal conservative is a good terminology to describe, but it's helped us improve our processes. Having a committee on budget and finance really think differently and do a different analysis of how we look at our fiduciary responsibilities is, I think, really a credit to you as well. As it comes to fishing, I'm not going fishing with.
I probably won't either.
However, I know you fish in Burke County, and you're always welcome to fish in my neighborhood in Burke County. Molly, what can I say? I need to create my personal learning plan, because every time I'll think of you, I'll think of again, your focus on the importance of reaching out to every single child every day. Every child every day may have been the commissioner's slogan, but it's clearly your passion, and it has resonated in all the work that you've done on the board. I will always think about you when I think about accountability and assessment, because through those years we've been through the transitions. And to think about your leadership, my first year on the board in accountability and assessment to where we are today, think of how far we've come. And that is a tribute to the leadership you've provided on this board as well. To speak on national, I won't talk about, that you chair committees and all that. There I'm going to talk about where I see you function so well in your gracious outreach to people. You are able to make a friend anywhere. You just have a way to reach out to people, to engage people that really shows your passion and your compassion and your interest in humanity. And so thank you both for all that you've done.
Lisa?
Well, I'll start with Molly. When I think about the mental health issues and things like that, I will think of you. When I think about when you're down, I'll think about you coming over with your smile and just lifting the spirits of people. And Patrick, what can I say about you? We don't always agree, but darn it, I don't always agree with my husband either. But I have to tell you a story. He has a power to, even, we don't always agree, but he had this power. And one day he hit the table and we had a break, and I said, Patrick, may I please speak to you in the conference room? He said, sure. So I walked in there and I said, my heart really races when you go like this, and you're really at it. So that was in the morning, and in the afternoon, he was doing this thing again, and he said, was that too angry? And I said, no, Patrick, that's just passion. And I hope he's in a contest in the state of Nebraska to get how many different types of trout?
Oh, the Nebraska Trout Slam.
Yeah, 4. So I hope you win that, and
I'll have more time next year.
Oh, yeah. And
will.
yeah. So I thank you for your financial contributions to this board, and also your passion for calendars.
That's true.
Pat?
Well, there's been an awful lot of things said.
Microphone.
Poor Pip.
There's been an awful lot of nice things said, and I don't want to reiterate all of this, but as far as Molly's concerned, Molly and I have had many discussions about, we understand that Grand Island isn't in the Panhandle, and she has a lot of space out there, and it's wonderful space, and I enjoy it tremendously, and I've enjoyed being with you. We've had a lot of fun together. We have a lot of passion about some of the same things, and I really appreciate that. And Patrick, your part is, I live with someone who has that left brain that I don't have. So, I understand. I don't always agree, as some of us have said, but I understand that left brainness, and the times that it makes me think of what my husband says to me when I'm right or he's right. He'll say, I've agreed with you. You don't have to tell me why. And many times I do agree with you, but I don't expect you to tell me why. Thank you.
John?
Thank you, Mo. 2 traits that really point out that I've really noticed and really greatly appreciate when it comes to Patrick and Molly is hardworking. These people are hardworking, and you try to keep up with them because they're, if you will, engaged. They're engaged with the issues we're facing, some of the challenges we're facing, but they're at the tip of the spear. I mean, they are, if you will, at the front, making things happen. And the 2 traits that I admire most, I'll give you an example. Mr. McPherson here, he's probably one of the most dependable people at this board. I don't think you've ever missed a meeting, Patrick, if that's correct. If he says he's going to be there, he's going to be there. And it's just that simple. So you can count on him, if you will. If he's scheduled for something or a work task, whatever, McPherson's there, not an issue. In regards to Molly, the passion. I mean, the passion's just flowing out of her. As several have stated before, she has never met a stranger. And she's not shy about saying what she what she means. And so thank you very much. But I'll leave you with this, Molly. Somehow, I am going to buy a digital backpack and send it to you in North Carolina.
This morning, I'd like you to look over on that wall, the state board pictures. And I asked Drew if he could send some digital copies to me. And I just wanted to take a moment to reflect on us state board members. It's really not about us. It really is about the state of Nebraska, the state of education, and preparing our kids for college, career, and civic life. And when I look at those pictures and I remember the personalities of the board members with whom I've served, they are still here, and their words and their policies are still impacting future generations in Nebraska. And I would be remiss if I didn't take a moment to thank the staff. When I look at those pictures, I think of close friends I've made on the staff that I'm missing now. But those people are gone but not forgotten. And just to mention a few, Sharon Cott, Rich Cott, Frida Lang, Mary Duffy, Carol Rimpf. I've been impacted by your management as well. And Roger Breed, bless his heart. So, we may be going, but it's really, someone said, are you sad to be leaving? I said, no, we're in great hands. And Robin Stevens right there. It's been a pleasure to serve for 8 years. And I know that any part of what I've done has been because it isn't about one of us. It's about us listening to each other, and it's about us collaborating, creating the best policies, and then dynamically be ready to change. And I am going to be, no surprise, of being of some service in making no money. My husband always jokes, Molly, you spend a lot of time making no money. But anyway, it's been a pleasure to serve with you each. And Commissioner and your current staff, thank you so much. And Ryan Ford, thank you so much for fulfilling your liaison role. And Jason Gomez, you're not here, but thank you so much for keeping track of all of our comings and goings. And it takes a village, and Commissioner Bloomstead, you've created a village. And thank you. Patrick?
Feel like I just need to reiterate everything you said, but I really appreciate. Oh, wait a second.
Santa.
I really appreciate being compared to a couple of members' husbands. And I kind of think, I was thinking here about Molly and myself, and, it's kind of the rose and the thorn, I guess. Molly is so passionate and so caring and so loving in everything that she does, and I probably don't come off that way very often. But, I did want to say I did turn to my fellow board member here when she voted no, and I said, good for you. So, I've taken some stands that maybe folks disagree with, or that I thought I was representing my constituents on, and, we all, as you said, have the same goal, and it's the education of our children and the future of our state. And I don't think there's anyone here that hasn't worked in that direction, and I feel honored and privileged to have had the opportunity to serve with all of you, and to be benefited by the commissioner and his help, and the help of the staff here, who've been very informative and very helpful to me over the last 4 years. I hope that we all just continue to move forward. I kind of leave here thinking there are lots of things I might have still wanted to do, but I know that this board is going to continue to move on in a very proactive manner, and I think that is so important. And again, I thank everyone for the opportunity to be here and work with you.
Just very quickly. Patrick
Microphone.
also taught me something. Oh, you're supposed to say that. Anyway, you taught me something that's very important, and I'm going to use it if I may. When I voted no, I wanted my explanation to be for the record, so that when somebody peruses that, they know why I voted no, and is it too late to say that?
I think it's on the record.
Yeah, now it's all there.
Okay.
Hey, and I just wanted to be able to say one thing too, and I think on behalf of all of the staff at the Department of Education, that we very much appreciate your service, both Molly and Patrick. I know they have many ways they'll keep probably saying thank you to you, but Molly, your point about we're really standing on the shoulders of giants and others that have come before us, and you know, it's an interesting role to watch this board do this. But I'm so proud of all of you, and I don't know if that's like the right way to, but I really am, because the way you conduct business and the way you lead and provide a model, and we don't always have to agree to provide the right model. The reality is that we're trying to do the right things for students across the state of Nebraska, and I know the staff feel that way about you and about the opportunity to work with you. So thank you very much for that, and I'll say more thank yous before I tear up. So.
Well, I just want to kind of wrap this up to say that you both have made us a better board, and thank you for that. And I learned a long time ago in my work with the NSCA that when you hold a meeting, I would train my leaders, you should always have fun. And I think this gave us an opportunity to really have some fun rather than the regular norm for a few minutes. But also, Patrick and Molly, last night there was a few of us that did a road trip.
Yes, Billy's right.
No. We went road tripping. And we tried to think, what would be something fun for these guys? Anyway, I think we've kind of highlighted some of the things that might be in your bag.
I think you guys had too much time on your hands.
Dave wondered why I got home so late last night. I'll never tell.
Yeah. So anyway, I gotta make sure I hand it. Patrick, this one is yours. And this is from the entire board, okay? This represents the entire board. And Molly, this is for you. I think you'll understand everything.
Should we open them?
Sure, why, let's have some more fun.
I don't know, John, I can see John wants it. Leslie's here and her time's money.
Husker calendar, I didn't miss a game this year. I'm gonna save all this rapping, I'm a great rapper, you know.
Fiscally conservative people would say that.
And that's wonderful, thank you.
Well, I think it's time to get rid of that white.
I've gotta tell you, you know. Give that back to me. I have this by my side all day long in my car and everywhere I go until I run over it. I've run over a couple of these by putting them on my roof, and all of a sudden I realized I drove off and ran over them. But you know, it's so easy just and I don't have to spell it on myself, and it falls around, and it, you know, it's terrible. And it keeps, my coffee is cold all day long. I drink cold coffee all day long out of this. And the nice thing about some of these are the new ones are they're insulated, and I hate hot coffee. I can't drink hot coffee, and I don't drink cold stuff. So I mean, it's just. But thank you very much. I will use this. I promise you. And I apologize. At least this is halfway clean today. I have a bunch of stains on it. But yeah, I suppose that's drawn some attention over the period of time. And beetle spin. Oh, that's all right. And a rooster tail. And a big red koozie, and thank you very much. Oh, wait a second, there's a Rapala here. This would be good for catching some of those trout, you know, when I'm using a spinning rod rather than a fly reel. Thank you. I got to see what you got.
Yeah, it seems like Christmas time.
Yeah.
It is Christmas. Oh, isn't this sweet? There will be grandkids. Oh, isn't this is also good.
There's a theme
Sweet dreams.
from the grandbabies.
Yes, yes, yes. In fact, all 5 kids are coming and various partners and children, and they're all at my house. Grandma makes the world a little kinder, a little wiser, and a little softer. That is sweet. And of course, more colors. Oh, isn't this sweet? An M mug. And I love, I have 3, lots of M's in my family. So when I'm, you know what, in the great beyond, somebody else will be drinking out of the M mug.
And Molly, the
Thank
dress you
you.
wore yesterday was full of bling. That matches your
Thank you.
dress.
Oh, yes, yes. Well, thank you, my fellow board members, for your kindness and generosity. And I apologize to the viewing public that we spent so much time just being friendly, but I appreciate it. And Patrick, God bless you. You've always been honest and given me good feedback, and I respect you very much. Good luck. Here we go.
What I'd like to do is if we could have all the board members up.
Do the vote right now, I think.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, we gotta vote.
We gotta-
There is still a motion. We had the motion in the second. This was a long discussion.
We already had our discussion. Roll call.
McPherson.
Abstain.
O'Halloran.
I should abstain as well.
The recognition. Nichols.
Yes.
Tim.
Yes.
Witzel.
Yes.
Wise.
Yes.
Fricky.
Yes.
Co-Johns. So we have 5 yes, 1 absent, and 2 abstains.
If, board members, if we could get out front here, I'd like to present the certificates, both Patrick and Molly, and we'll have a group picture around the presentation.
Well, skip your last meeting.
Open them up.
You guys be in the middle?
No, we'll be out the back.
Okay.
Do we need Ann Masters here? Choice person, please.
Drew will arrange us.
Hey, Drew's on camera, that's a
Yeah,
good
here,
thing.
you need to come up and
Okay.
we're gonna have Mo, you go kind of in the back there, you're taller, down a little bit. Alright, find your window here. Alright, can you see everybody now? Yep, that's good.
I mean,
I got it. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Board members will now turn into the hearings. In regards to, the State Board of Education is prepared to consider the disposition of case 18-17, Aaron Sostis versus the Commissioner. The board has been provided with a record of Nebraska Professional Practices Commission's proceedings containing the findings of fact, conclusions of law, and recommendation of the commission. All of the pleadings, exhibits, and written scripts of the NPPC hearing are marked by the State Board as Exhibit 1. The notice of disposition hearing and certified return receipts are marked as Exhibit 2. If there is no objection, these will be received. We will first hear from the representative of the NPPC, then the petitioner, and finally the representative of the respondent. Each representative will be given 10 minutes to present his or her statements. The board will not receive any additional evidence or testimony beyond that contained in Exhibits 1 and 2. Will the representative of the Professional Practices Commission please come forward, be seated, and identify yourself?
Good morning. I am Kelly Mothersbaugh, and I'm here representing the Nebraska Professional Practices Commission on the matter of Aaron Saski versus Matthew L. Bloomstead. The commission found that the respondent's certificate was revoked by the State Board of Education on the 7th day of November 2014 for a period of 4 years, beginning on May 31st, 2014 and ending on May 31st, 2018. The petitioner alleges that he has complied with the order of revocation and has met the requirements for issuance of a certificate, and has stated that he understands those requirements and that he will not violate or fail to comply with any of the same if he is issued a new certificate. The commission deliberated on the facts before it and recommends to the State Board of Education that Aaron Saski be allowed to apply for reinstatement of his certificate.
Does any board member have any questions of the clerk? Seeing and hearing none, will the petitioner please come forward, be seated, and identify yourself?
Good morning. My name is Aaron Saski. First off, I'd like to thank everybody for being here. I do apologize that we have to go from excitement to something like this, unfortunately. First off, I'd like to say I'm very sorry for actions that were placed years ago with myself. I take full responsibility for what happened years ago. I do not put blame towards anybody whatsoever for my actions years ago, and that I take full responsibility. And from day one, you know, it's been a challenge. I've accepted that challenge throughout this time. A little bit what I've been doing here in the last, I would say, 4.5, 5 years. My very last year of teaching, when I taught at Thayer Central High School, when I left education, I got hired on to Verizon Wireless as an ES, is what they call it. It's considered an experienced specialist. I was pretty much a glorified door greeter, if you want to say, at my hometown in Grand Island. I grew up in Grand Island, working at that corporate location there for Verizon. So if you want to say complete embarrassment, you can definitely say that, because of the fact that I was working at a door greeting people that I knew from growing up. But I took my job very seriously, like I would anywhere else. Then moved into a sales position. Actually became one of the top sales reps in our territory, which consists of South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, and Iowa. Then got promoted to a management position in the Kearney, Nebraska store. I've been there ever since. Still there currently. Actually, I'm in a interim general manager role right now because my boss is on leave. I have been recruited to run other stores in other states, but deep down inside, there's only one thing that I really wanted to do. My goal was always to get back in front of you, plead my case to get a second chance at teaching. That's always been my number one goal through all of this, even from the last time that I was here and knew I was going to be gone for 4 years. I've had friends and family members and relatives and so forth ask me, you know, why do you want to go back? You've created a second life and you're doing extremely well. I didn't go to school for 6 years to get my bachelor's and master's not to teach. My passion is in education, and I know some through the minds are, well, you know, you screwed that up. Yeah, I did. But I believe through my actions in the last 4 years, 5 years, that I think I deserve a second chance for my hard work that I've put forward towards that. Over a year ago, I just recently got married. My wife is back there supporting me today. I have two new step kids. Being a teacher, I always thought, hey, you know, I could always be a parent. Can't be that hard. You know, I'm teaching all these kids. Well, you don't have to go home with the kids. You know, these kids are with me 24/7 for the most part. My stepdaughter, she is 18, senior at Amherst High School. Just got accepted into college at McCook. She's very excited, obviously. I'm very excited for that. I'm a strong believer in the community college, so I was kind of pushing her in that direction, to be honest with you. And then my stepson is a 6th grader, so they have kept me on my toes. I've realized, yeah, parenting probably isn't that easy. And I think my wife would probably agree. You're not very good at it, Aaron. But over the years, you know, getting married, having stepkids, and everything else, you know, it's taught me a lot more than probably anything else has over time. So I guess if there is any questions, I would be more than willing to answer them for you.
Does any board member have any questions of the petitioner?
I do have letters of recommendation to hand out. I'm not sure when the proper time would be for that, though.
Did you hand those out during your hearing before the commission?
Yes, ma'am.
They're in the record, so
Okay.
the board has already received them. And
Okay.
reviewed them.
When I was in front of the MPPC, I had 5 people speak on my behalf. Obviously, they're not here today. A couple of them were teachers, and then a couple of them one was a colleague, and then a couple others were friends. Their letters are included in this new one here because they couldn't come today, obviously for scheduling reasons, being a Friday. But they wanted to input their information in there in case you did not hear what they had to say in front of the MPPC.
Very good. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for your time. Thank you, sir. That's all we have.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Will the respondent please come forward, be seated, and identify yourself?
Sarah Hulak, 301 Centennial Mall South, 6th floor, Lincoln, Nebraska, here on behalf of Commissioner Dr. Matt Bloomstead, respondent in this matter. We are in support of the Professional Practices Commission's recommendation to permit the petitioner to apply for a certificate. I am happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Does the board have any questions of the respondent? Seeing and hearing none. This proceeding is now closed. The board will make a determination at a later date. Thank you very much. State Board of Education is prepared to consider the disposition of case 18-18, Commissioner versus Joshua Crouch. The board has been provided with a record of Nebraska Professional Practices Commission's proceedings containing the findings of fact, conclusions of law, and recommendation of the commission. All of the pleadings, exhibits, and written transcripts of the NPPC hearing are marked by the State Board as Exhibit 1. The notice of disposition hearing and the certified return receipts are marked as Exhibit 2. If there is no objections, these will be received. We will first hear from the representative of the NPPC, then the petitioner, and finally a representative of the respondent. Each representative will be given 10 minutes to present his or her statements. The board will not receive any additional evidence or testimony beyond that contained in Exhibits 1 and 2. Will the representative of the Professional Practices Commission please come forward, be seated, and identify yourself?
Good morning again. I am Kelly Mothersbaugh, and I'm here representing the Nebraska Professional Practices Commission on the matter of Matthew L. Bloomstead versus Joshua Crouch. The commission found that the respondent failed to adhere to the terms of his contract with Millard Public Schools. The commission deliberated on the facts before it and recommends to the State Board of Education that the respondent certificate be suspended for a period of 1 year.
Any questions for the respondent? For the clerk, I'm sorry. Seeing and hearing none, will the petitioner please come forward, be seated, and identify yourself?
Sarah Hulak, 301 Centennial Mall South, 6th floor, Lincoln, Nebraska. Here on behalf of the Commissioner of Education, Dr. Matt Bloomstead, petitioner in this matter. We are in support of the Professional Practices Commission's recommendation as consistent with prior precedent, and the facts and record warrant the recommended sanction in this matter. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Does the board have any questions for the petitioner? Thank you very much. Will the respondent please come forward, be seated, and identify yourself? Let the record reflect that the respondent did not appear. After this presentation, does any board member have a question of the respondent? Seeing and hearing none, the proceedings are now closed. The board will make a determination at a later date. Thank you. The State Board of Education is prepared to consider the disposition of case 18-19, Commissioner versus Jennifer Nelson. The board has been provided with the settlement agreement, which is marked by the State Board Exhibit 1. Notice of the hearing is marked as Exhibit 2. If there is no objections, these will be received. We will first hear from the representative of the petitioner, then a representative of the respondent. Each representative will be given 10 minutes to present his or her statements. The board will not receive any additional evidence or testimony beyond that contained in Exhibits 1 and 2. Will the petitioner please come forward, be seated, and identify yourself?
Morning again. Sarah Hulak, 301 Centennial Mall South, 6th floor, Lincoln, Nebraska, here on behalf of Commissioner Bloomstead, Commissioner of Education, petitioner in this matter. As you see from the settlement agreement that has been entered into the record, Mrs. Nielsen was found guilty of a misdemeanor prohibited conviction. In addition to this criminal conviction, Ms. Nielsen's family was under the jurisdiction of the Juvenile Court of Douglas County for a companion case where in these two cases, Ms. Nielsen was ordered to complete family and individual therapy, 180 hours of a cognitive behavioral group, 100 hours of community service, a victim empathy class, a women's trauma group. Ms. Nielsen completed all court orders successfully. Ms. Nielsen has not been employed as a teacher since November of 2016 when she resigned from the Omaha Public Schools. I would refer to you to the settlement agreement for the underlying facts in this matter. I am happy to answer questions about them towards the end. I would also note that while there's no precedent that is directly on point in regards to the facts and circumstances of this case, there is a body of prior cases involving misdemeanor convictions for conduct surrounding either contributing to delinquency or procuring alcohol to minors. In each of those cases, this board imposed a 5-year revocation for each respondent. Those cases include Christensen v. White, that's case number 1804, Christensen v. Kitt, that's number 95-33, Bloomstead v. Danley, case number 15-20, and Bloomstead v. Erweiler, and that's case 15-12. Therefore, I would ask you today to order the respondent's certificate to be revoked for a period of 5 years. These 5 years will allow the respondent additional time to reflect on the events and circumstances and ensure that the respondent will have the ability to recognize the warnings of child abuse and report child abuse to the appropriate authorities should she intend to return to the classroom and apply for reinstatement at the end of her revocation period. And again, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Does the board have any questions for the petitioner? Seeing and hearing none, will the respondent please come forward, be seated, and identify yourself?
Jennifer Nielsen, respondent.
Good morning, Don Loudner. I'm counsel for respondent, and I'm covering this hearing today on behalf of Matt Sadoff, who's been my boss. He's been counsel throughout the preceding matters in this case.
Thank you very much. Please proceed.
Thank you, and again, I don't want to go too much into the facts. I believe there is a settlement put forth before you there, and I believe it's fair and reasonable, as petitioner had mentioned. I believe case law supports the 5-year revocation that's been negotiated, and we believe that's fair and reasonable. Ms. Nielsen has, I'll just reiterate, Ms. Nielsen has complied with all matters and issues regarding the underlying juvenile court case. She's met all qualifications, I believe, and is still meeting all the recommendations that were put forth by the this proceeding, and to that extent, we're just asking the board approve the settlement agreement that's been put forth before them at this point in time.
Are there any questions from the board? Seeing and hearing none, thank you very much. Thank you. These proceedings are now closed. The board will make a determination in this at a later date. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
I move that the State Board of Education go into executive session to deliberate and receive legal advice from legal counsel on contested cases.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion on this motion? Seeing and hearing none, Denise, please call roll.
O'Halloran?
Yes.
McPherson?
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Fricky?
Yes.
Wise?
Yes.
Witzel?
Yes.
Kojohn, 7 yes, 1 absent.
The board will now go into executive session only to deliberate and receive legal advice from legal counsel on contested cases. Thank you very much. God, that was quick. Any discussion? Seeing none, Denise, please call roll.
Let's see, O'Halloran,
Yes.
McPherson,
Yes.
Fricky,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Witzel,
Yes.
Wise,
Yes.
Co-Johns. 7 yes, 1 absent.
Thank you very much, Denise. Molly, is there a motion on item 7.1 and NDE case number 1817?
Yes, I move in the matter of reinstatement of Aaron C. Saki's NDE case number 18-17, that this board adopt the findings of fact, conclusions of law, and the recommendation of the Nebraska Professional Practices Commission, allowing petitioner to apply for a teaching or administrative certificate and to adopt the final order proposed by legal counsel.
Is there a
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Seeing and
I
hear-
would just like to say, I appreciate Aaron being here and coming before us. It takes a lot to do that. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Mo. Any other discussion? If not, Denise, please call roll.
O'Halloran,
Yes?
McPherson,
Yes.
Fricky,
Yes.
Wise,
Yes.
Witzel,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Co-Johns. 7 yes, 1 absent.
Thank you, Denise. Maureen, is there a motion on item 7.2 in NDE case 18-18?
Yes. I move in Commissioner versus Joshua Crouch, NDE case number 18-18, that this board adopt the findings of fact, conclusions of law, and the recommendation of the Nebraska Professional Practices Commission, suspending respondent's teaching certificate for 1 year, and to adopt the final order proposed by legal counsel.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Denise, please call roll.
McPherson,
Yes.
O'Halloran,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Fricky,
Yes.
Wise.
Yes.
Witzel,
Yes.
Co-Johns. 7 yes, 1 absent.
Thank you, Denise. Rachel, is there a motion on item 7.3 and NDE case number 1819?
Yes, I move in Commissioner versus Nielsen, NDE case number 18-19, that this board approve the proposed settlement agreement in which the parties have stipulated to a 5-year revocation, of respondent's teaching certificate, and to adopt the final order proposed by legal counsel.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I would just like to add, I am pleased that Ms. Nielsen is here today to stand before us. I appreciate that very much.
Thank you, Mo. Any other discussion? If none, Denise, please call roll.
O'Halloran,
Yes.
McPherson,
Yes.
Fricky,
Yes.
Wise,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Nichols.
Yes.
Did I call Molly?
Yes.
Okay, it didn't click, so. And Co-Johns, we have 7 yes, 1 absent.
Thank you, Denise.
Okay.
That's it.
That's it. Thank you,
Please.
board members.
Leslie.
Excuse me.
God bless you.
Thank you. You ready to go? Okay. We'll continue on with the rest of our agenda, special presentations and discussions. We now have Rachel Wise has requested discussion on special education information specific to the multi-tiered systems of support. Rachel?
Yes, actually, I requested information on two elements, and that's the relationship of the MTSS and the maintenance of effort, and to get a better understanding of the processes that are occurring between MTSS and the maintenance of effort.
Yeah, so I'll highlight a couple things. There's actually been two changes, I will say, somewhat underway relative to maintenance of effort and MTSS, and one of the changes not related necessarily to the other change. So,
Yeah, and give a little background
Sure.
on if people aren't familiar with MTSS or maintenance of effort.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
with maintenance of effort itself is actually a federal requirement for special education, where a school district that spends X number of dollars on special education can't spend less than that in a prior year. It's actually a maintenance of effort on the state as well, and so there's a requirement that happens, and that comes underneath IDEA, the requirements underneath federal law for that type of expenditure. And there's some good reasons for that in the past, right? That the federal government's contributing an amount of money that they want to make sure is being used that way. But there are challenges with maintenance of effort, right? If you make substantial changes in what might happen, especially I think when you see smaller districts, you could have a high needs cost student 1 year, and once perhaps they graduate or move on and aren't part of that, and you have to kind of balance those things out. So for a long time, there's been some challenges around maintenance of effort, and we've even advocated at a federal level for changes in how that might be calculated. I'll set that aside on one front. MTSS, multi-tiered systems of support, the whole basis of MTSS is that you build a system that's actually helping you reduce the amount of special education, right? And those two things would seem to kind of run parallel to one another. And we've had a significant push. Yeah, I think we had our conference, I don't remember the exact date, back in October or whatever time frame, with many people across the state participating in that particular conference to talk about what MTSS was and how that would go together. Well, two things basically with MTSS, I guess let me highlight that just a little bit more. MTSS, with that idea that we're actually trying to provide services. There used to be something called response intervention, or it was called RTI. The whole idea is that you're trying to prevent things that from happening, provide services sooner, identify challenges earlier, and then hopefully reduce the overall cost of that. Those two things, though, can interact, and some of the concern that could happen is that, well, gee, if we save funds because we're implementing MTSS, will we be penalized on our maintenance of effort later, right? And we've had some questions about that, and actually, I will propose that we'll have a little bit more detailed conversation on this probably in the following months. But there was a concern that because there were some maintenance of effort issues that had occurred where schools actually had to reimburse the department, and ultimately so we could reimburse at a federal level, there was the thought that those two things were interacting. Well, there's actually a specific provision within maintenance of effort addressing MTSS, that if you reduce the number of students that are receiving special ed services, that you're actually credited for that. So it should not have that negative type of consequence for maintenance of effort going forward. But right at this moment in time where we're highlighting both of those, some places are thinking, well, that's a possibility that those two issues, you're kind of, trying to work on MTSS, reduce your special ed needs and costs, and at the same time be penalized. Well, the numbers don't bear that out. Actually, as we've looked at that, the reality for us as a state that's not actually the causal effect of implementing MTSS. So we'll dive into that a little bit more. There's been some interest to look at that, probably explain that a little bit differently. But because there was also calculations on maintenance of effort that were hitting at this, actually, I want to say this summer, I lose track of the exact time frame. Some school districts have issued that as a concern, and we've had staff responding and looking at that.
So what I'd like from any colleagues, I think there's some questions that I think we need to delve in more deeply that I have around this process as it relates to the intersection with Rule 51. Is there clarity in Rule 51 around the use of MTSS and its relationship with maintenance of effort? And then as we think about what we're trying to do with intervention as a whole, early intervention, if we move in the direction of screening for dyslexia, if we move in the direction of strategic early intervention for kids who are having challenges with reading, you see this potential relationship where in the past we've often identified kids 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th grade when ideally early intervention may prevent identification. And I'm not sure that we have clarified, at least for me to understand as a board level, to have those conversations with any constituents of, from a regulatory perspective, what does it look like and how are we advocating, even from a resource perspective? Is there a way to start to look at additional resources under special education in a perspective of MTSS and early intervention that helps look at this picture of maintenance effort from a different perspective than from a perspective of just identification and numbers served? Because in essence, when you're doing intervention, you're doing a type of identification and service. And so I feel like from the feedback that brought some of these questions forward, does our regulatory process really align well with our board philosophical direction on policy of early intervention and identification? And so I think we need to understand that as board members, and we need to understand if we have any contradictory regulatory processes to the direction we've been moving in the past couple of years around early identification, early intervention, and the support of MTSS.
And I think it's actually very much that point of getting those systems in alignment and making sure that those things are clear from a policy perspective and an implementation side, because we have we'll probably confound it, right? Anytime we have our state rule and reg side of the equation and state law as well, federal rule and reg and that side of the equation, making sure those systems are working just as Rachel I think highlights. We want to ensure that the processes, I'll throw early childhood into the mix as well, right? Because the whole idea of that early investment and making a substantial difference in everything that we've talked about and all of our goals and aspirations relative to what we want to accomplish in the strategic plan require those policies to interact and work well. So that is, I think, a very substantial part of our ongoing work to make sure that happens. And I'll throw one more into the mix too, because even though we think, even if they might be working all right, how they get communicated into the field and how those things work so as not to disincentivize the right thing by students, you know, for someone to say, well, we're going to select this intervention over here or not select these interventions because there's a penalty on the back side of that if we say, we don't want that type of environment to be there. I'll throw one more in, and that's related to special ed finance and how you look at special ed finance across the state of Nebraska and what we do. If you really, and I think this board's traditionally advocated, we certainly put it into our budget to increase the amount of special ed funding that comes from the state. Our reimbursement rate is under 50% now because our costs and growth in special ed have been, outpace what the investment that takes place from both a federal and a state level, and so that burden ends up resting with school districts. So working well, I think we can actually promote a system that, number one, doesn't have a penalty for the wrong reasons, for preventing additional costs for early identification of challenges and being able to lay out that system. But I do think there have been historically challenges of the alignment of those policies, and obviously that's a lot of our work going forward. Lisa had one first.
Commissioner, when we voted MTSS, I thought it was a very good process, that early intervention and the tiered way that it's conducted. But have there been any unintended consequences from the time of implementation that you didn't foresee?
Maybe more the perceptual issue that we're talking about was unintended, because I think the folks are making that link between maintenance of effort and MTSS, but I actually think as schools start to adopt that, I had especially a lot of rural school officials and superintendents come to me, hey, look, we've been doing this for a long time. Are you going to be mandating these things? But it's actually, I hate to call it this in simplest terms, but kind of common sense, right? You just address a challenge as early as possible and start providing that opportunity for students to do better. It aligns well with our philosophies around AQuESTT, but I do think in the communication side is probably an unanticipated side of that folks would link those two things together for different reasons. So.
Rachel made a point a little bit ago with the new
Or we can just have a conversation about that too.
Well,
I guess they want to hear.
There's not very many people here. No, when you mentioned the new statute as far as dyslexia and teaching and all that sort of thing, and where we don't have funding for that, and the people that I have talked to in my area have said, well, we're doing all of that, we're doing those early interventions already, except for kindergarten, because kindergartners come in at so many different levels that they don't really look at that until they're almost all the way through kindergarten, which I understand because I used to be in the kindergarten room. But if we that's another thing that I think needs to fit into this conversation, is if we get funding, how's that gonna mesh with this? Or if we don't get funding, how's that gonna affect these other funding streams that we're trying to use for so many other things? So, and I'm not asking for an answer today. I just think it's something that we need to have on our minds when we start more discussion about this.
And I think that, Pat, is really where this issue is, as Lisa and Pat are both saying, kind of this issue of unintended consequences. It's also, do we have any regulatory disconnect that certainly could be unintentional, but may be there in our regulatory or process and procedures around reporting, around budgetary claims for special education, around these elements that we've not really brought forward to the board and had a conversation on. And so I think it's important that we understand, because we passed the rules. We approved the rules. And so if there are some gaps in the rules because of these changes and expectations, then I think it's probably important and timely that we look at it and gear it up. Again, as we talked yesterday, we need to be cognizant of school calendars. School calendars, they're starting to plan next year. They're getting into next year. And so if there are some things we need to re-examine from a timing perspective, changes in Rule 51, if there are some things that need to be looked at, probably should be looked at so it impacts going forward and provides clarity. And if it's communication, then it's providing the communication and clarity as schools move into next year. So I think that's the piece that's important in coming back with a timeline or calendar that helps us to take a look at this issue and understand that issue. So at a minimum, we as board members have a clear understanding that we can articulate this with our constituents.
Well, and I think that also falls under making that clarity and communication with the legislature. Because if they're going to put statutes in place and not give us funding, then, I think they need to understand what you're talking about with clarity and communication as well.
Right, they just give us that job to do. We still have that job then to do. So they kind of tell us what to do. And so my question is, are we doing it? And do we have some gaps in that?
Molly, did you have your hand up?
Commissioner, in my understanding, the multi-tiered system of support basically is cost savings to the state. And it's a cohesive way to deal with mental behavioral health. And it combines academic with behavioral issues. So it's kind of what you talk about, not doing things in silos. And I would recommend, as we proceed with the calendar, of communication with our school districts, that it be done sooner than later, and also to really highlight that this is not putting another burden on our districts. It's actually creating an integrated way of viewing improving academics through positive behavioral intervention and support. It just makes sense, and it's not something that is just for special ed. I love MTSS because all our districts that are kind of highlighting their issues with behavioral and mental health, MTSS actually creates stability for teachers and students to cope with their situation, and I like how it involves the parental support. And I know that our constituents are always very concerned, what are you doing to involve the parents? And it's not blaming, it's highlighting early intervention. So it's a great program, and in our absence, we'll be looking to see that MTSS is being highlighted, being marketed as a cost savings for increasing academic success.
Lisa?
I guess it's been on, sorry about that. I was wondering, is there, after a certain amount of time, a survey to the people that are using MTSS or PBIS so that we know the great things that are happening, and if there are flaws in the implementation, that we learn about that fairly early to maybe not fix it, but revamp it in such a way that it would be better implemented, because the crux of what these programs are beneficial to students, just as Molly shared, and cost savings. But sometimes in the implementation process, something might be needed that we don't know about. Is there going to be some kind of survey or looking at it to make sure what we planned on happening is happening?
So one of the main points on that, so I wouldn't think so much about it as survey, right, but an evaluation relative to the implementations of the successes of that. And so the school districts that have been working closely with our staff and with others, I mean, and it's tied to, there's national models obviously on these things, and the approach on how that would actually be played out. So, but we also have to look at it from a whole statewide perspective. Are there other impacts? And I think that's very much what's in the works with our staff. When they had that big conference, and I don't remember, several of you were at that, there's a lot of interest from school districts, because I think the part of the promise on this is for the right reasons, right? That we're finding earlier interventions to make a substantial difference for students, and getting them the right services, and engaging parents and engaging others in the model of what special education, I think, always has been meant for, right? But unfortunately, the policies historically, and whether it's ours or federal or somewhere else, don't always align. And I think we got to play out those roles that we have as a board. We've got the regulator role, so obviously we can look at those things that we have in place. But I think there's some things for us to champion and some things for us to be a change agent on. And I did advocate with Senator Fisher in DC a couple different times now. One of the things I've looked at in maintenance of effort is there's never been kind of what I would call a maintenance of effort reserve, right? If a school district has a sudden shift in that, you shouldn't get penalized on that side of it. How can you actually be able to do it? So that's just one idea, and I'm not even saying that's the best idea, but it's been really fixed in federal policy for so long, and MTSS is actually one of the things on federal policy that they made a shift to allow for some exceptions for maintenance of effort. So we're trying to maximize that, yes.
Well, so how often will this evaluative process take place? Is it going to be every 2 years, every 3 years? Because you have this bar for MTS. This is what it is. This is how it can help. But in the implementation process in the different schools, is there something that needs to be done differently to reach the goal of MTSS?
Well, and remember, multiple phases of this too, right? So not just, I mean, this is a fairly complex kind of system. If you just want to look at the money side, that's one thing. You probably can have a fairly annualized approach, but we are actually going to have to track students
that's
performance and other things. So I think there's several things in the works that you look at that, because in the end, we want better results for our students.
Exactly.
And so the design of how that gets evaluated and how we continue to look at that is going to be important for us. And that's actually an important policy thing too, I think, for us to talk about.
Thank you.
And I think just picking up again, the financial aspect, we've talked about that this should save money, and there should be, a reduction in identification and lots of really positive things by really using an MTSS model, really engaging in early intervention. But if there's a financial disincentive in some perspective that we're not aware of, we've not really spent time talking about that aspect. And I think that's where clarity is critical. We have to understand the role of the superintendent that's out there with very, very challenging budgetary aspects, already not getting reimbursed adequately for special education as it is, which is a huge problem, changing needs in student population as it is, trying to do the right thing, and then if there's a financial disincentive in many cases for some of our smaller rural schools, it's a significant problem. And I think we need to have, if there is a perception it's a problem, then there's a problem. And if that problem is only a perception, it's a problem with communication. But I think we need to truly understand that, so that as our constituents who struggle with, in many of our schools, will be struggling with some real financial challenges over the next few years, as our state will, we have to have a good understanding of that.
Yeah, and one thing I'd like to highlight, there's long been the considerations around maintenance of effort. So my days of working with the Nebraska Rural Community Schools Association and those challenges, just simply having declining enrollment was a huge issue, right? And I think what's happening to us now is we're getting caught in a moment where other things are impacting maintenance of effort, but because we've been out promoting MTSS, you get that kind of balancing act. And so I appreciate knowing, what you're hearing on those fronts, because I think from our staff side, looking at it going, hey, look, MTSS makes a lot of sense on these fronts, but it still doesn't address the other challenges with maintenance of effort for other reasons. It does disincent certain things. I mean, so if you have certain things that you've been making investments in students, you want to make a change that would be, call it more efficient for whatever, that there's certain things that aren't accepted from that maintenance of effort issue. So I think it's bigger than just MTSS and maintenance of effort. I think there's a whole set of challenges around maintenance of effort. And I don't want to lose the benefits of MTSS as people realize I don't want them to say, or early intervention or anything else, because doing what's right for students is our main goal. So I think that's my I don't have anything better to sum it up than that. So
Thank you. Anything else, Rachel? Okay. Any more comments? Thank you very much. We'll continue on with the agenda. Board reports, dates, discussion items. Is there a motion to approve meetings that took place in the past that were not previously approved for Patsy Coe Johns and Lisa Fricky for attending the NSEA Retired Fall Conference on October 16, 2018?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, Denise, please call roll.
Fricky,
Abstain.
Coe-Johns, Wise,
Yes.
Witzel,
Yes.
O'Halloran.
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Nichols,
Abstain.
McPherson.
Yes.
Have 5 yes, 2 abstain, 1 absent.
Thank you, Denise. Is there a motion to approve a meeting that took place in the past that were not previously approved for Rachel Wise for attending the Doane College class visit on November 17th, 2018?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Denise, please call roll.
Who made the motion? I think I did.
Yeah,
Did she
did-
ask that?
Yeah.
O'Halloran,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
McPherson,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Fricky,
Yes.
Wise,
Abstain.
Yes.
Co-Johns. So we have 6 yes, 1 abstain, 1 absent.
Thank you, Denise. Is there a motion to approve the meetings that took place in the past that were not previously approved for Maureen Nichols for attending the Capital District of NSEA elected officials dinner on December 3rd, 2018?
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Denise, please call roll.
McPherson,
Yes.
Nichols,
Abstain.
Tim,
Yes.
O'Halloran.
Yes.
Witzel,
Yes.
Wise.
Yes.
Fricky,
Yes.
Co-Johns. 6 yes, 1 absent, 1 abstain.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve the future meeting participation?
So moved.
Second?
Discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Denise, please call roll.
I think Denise's computer caught that bug I had.
Oh. Maybe we should fumigate the place.
So we're on future. Okay, you made the motion?
Okay.
Had to.
I did.
Second by
I think
Rachel
I
Weiss,
seconded,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
McPherson,
Yes.
O'Halloran,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Witzel,
Yes.
Wise.
Yes.
Fricky,
Yes.
Co-Johns. 7 yes, 1 absent.
Thank you, Denise. The next items are information items and written reports for the board and other information only. Commissioner, do you have anything, sir?
I don't have anything else.
Okay, if that's the case, we'll move on to adjournment. Thank you for those who tuned in on the broadcast. A work session and board meeting will be held on Friday, January 11th at 9 a.m. in this room. The December State Board meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
You know, last